And they'll laugh when you come on in. Finding peace, what's good with you? Hope everybody having a good day. I mean, everybody got their personal preference. I'm asking y'all the same question. So, whatever's your personal preference, let me know. You can't tell somebody what they shouldn't ask for, or what they didn't want. Yeah, I think Shakur's gonna beat Teo decisively. All right, we all know the business of boxing. We all know the business of boxing prevents sometimes the best fights as far as the technical aspect of boxing. And as fans, that can really, really like piss us off. And we've seen it like time and time again, whether it's promotional companies beefing, or networks beefing, or managers, or a fight not being financially ready. There's a bunch of different reasons why fights don't happen. There's a bunch of mitigating factors and why fights don't get made. And so what I'm asking you is that give me 5 fights. Like Terence Crawford, the back end of his career was fucking magnificent, but there were a lot of fights that he didn't get, and mainly because of the business of boxing, promotional issues and whatnot. So I'm asking you as a fan, now that Terence Crawford done called it quits, give me 5 fights that you would have loved to see Terence Crawford in that just didn't materialize for whatever the reason. Like give me your 5 fights that you was like, damn, like I wanted to see that. Like that was a great fight. Let me know if you want me to go first or y'all go. Let me know. Because I see one that y'all definitely put that I always wanted to see. But yeah, give me 5 fights, because I'm not even gonna lie, every fighter, no matter how great the resume, there's always fights that just never happen. Right? It's just some fights that we never got a chance to see. Perfect example. Shane Mosley versus Felix Trinidad. To me, that's a great fight. Never got a chance to see that. Floyd versus Winky Wright. Never got a chance to see that. Hey, sick fellas, you need one more, yo. Need one more. But I feel like this is a good question. This is a good question for boxing. I see dudes talking about Snack. I see dudes talking about, he's running from the Canelo rematch. It's like, bro, stop it. But now when we look back on the legacy of Terence Crawford, what did the business of boxing prevent us from getting? Because there was a bunch of good fights. And what do you think Bud will win those fights, or what do you think Bud will lose those fights? That's an opinion. But the only way we can judge is in the ring, because there's plenty of people who thought that he didn't have a chance in hell against Canelo, and you saw how that materialized. It was good, yo. All right, so for me, a lot of us have the same ones. But I'm gonna give mine. Danny Garcia and Bud at 40 or 47. That's a rematch from the amateurs. I think they split. They were 1-1 in the amateurs. And I've always thought that was a good fight that I would have loved to see. Especially being that they're so familiar with each other. And yeah, that was a fight that didn't happen strictly because of the business and timing. When Bud was moving up to 140 pounds, Danny really couldn't make the weight anymore. And then when Bud got to 147, Danny was still at 147, but then it was the Cold War between Top Rank and Al Heyman. And so we didn't get it. But I always thought that was a good, intriguing fight. I would have favored Bud in that fight. But yeah, that was a fight that we missed. It was a fight that we never got. Second one on my list, Keith Thurman. When Bud first got to the division, Keith Thurman is the fight that he wanted. Everybody was saying, oh, Spence, the eye test. Bud and Bomac was on the record and kept telling you that Keith Thurman was the fight, that Keith Thurman was the harder fight. And around that time, people were enamored with Spence. To where as though, no, Spence is the fight, the eye test. I remember Stephen A. Smith did an interview. Oh, the eye test. And Bud told him sometimes your eyes can play tricks on you. And then what happened? When they fought, he dismantled him. Like a complete destruction. I always thought that Keith Thurman would be a harder fight than Spence for Crawford, being that Keith has a very, very unique skill that a lot of fighters do not have. Keith is exceptional at punching while on the move, and punching while on the move with power. And so I always wanted to see how Bud dealt with that. But I remember people was on Bomac's ass, pause, because he said that Keith Thurman was a harder fight than Spence. When the reality is, Mean Machine was a harder fight than Spence. Styles make fights. Situations make fights. But sometimes fans don't see it that way. Fans see popularity and, they operate out of space of fandom. But I always thought Keith was an intriguing fight because Keith could move, Keith could punch, Keith can be slippery, Keith is a survivor. And I always thought that was a great fight at 147, but when Bud comes up, Keith's hurt. And then, the Cold War with PBC and Top Rank. We were robbed of that fight. I always thought Keith would have been a tough fight. Third fight, Jamel Charlo. After Bud dismantles Spence, he moves up to 154 pounds. That was the fight to make, but I can't tell Charlo not to take the fight with Canelo. But hindsight is 20/20, especially with the way that fight looked and how it turned out. But that was a great fight. Bud's first fight at 154 going up against the undisputed champion. Can you imagine if Bud goes and beats Mel and he goes and beats Canelo? You're talking about 4 division undisputed. That would have been insane. That would have been insane. But when looking at Mel's strong, Mel's sturdy, really good fundamentals, right? Mel's going to be consistent. And can Bud deal with the size? Can Bud deal with the punching power? Can Mel deal with the quickness and the skill set of Crawford? That was a great fucking fight that we never got. Somebody brought up another one, Josh Taylor. When Bud was being denied opponents, At that particular time, Josh Taylor was the undisputed champion at 140 pounds. And there was talks that he was going to move up to 147 and fight Terence Crawford. And I felt like, of course, I got Bud stopping Josh. But I felt like that was the perfect fight to make on the top rank while waiting for a Spence fight. Is that why not the former undisputed king at the division fight the new undisputed king at 147, with the bout being at 147 pounds. I felt like for narrative purposes, for name purposes, that was a great fight. That was a great situation for Bud. Hey Marley, the times never came with Bud and Dev. By the time Dev moved up to 47, Bud had been at 54. Well, shit, Bud had been at 68 by the time Dev moved to 47. So, yeah, that could never happen. But of course, we know number 5. If you're a real boxing fan, you wanted to see how the current ruler of boxing would deal with the future of boxing. Bud versus Ennis. Probably stylistically the best fight that could have been made. Jordan versus Kobe. Kobe versus LeBron. Guy that you feel like is going to take over boxing versus the guy that sits on the throne. I mean, when you look at it skill set wise, both fighters have everything. Power, speed, reflexes, defense, inside fighting, footwork, etc. They can do everything. Great finishers, mean. Fight out of both stances. They can do everything. And the real question in that fight was, will Bud show up old? And is Bud's experience and Boot's inexperience at the highest level, would that be the deciding factor? Number 5 was the best fight, though. The best fight stylistically that could be made. The fight that had the most questions. 1, how good is Boots? 2, can Boots show restraint? Can Boots show patience? Can Crawford deal with the younger, fresher man? Great fucking fight. This is boxing. Crawford's at a different point in his career. He's looking for a different level of fight. I ain't talking about actual boxing wise, I'm talking about financial. And Boots is looking to make a name. Great fucking fight. But we never got it. But for me, those are my 5 fights that I felt like the business of boxing kind of robbed us of. Nah, I didn't want to see him in Pac-Man. By the time they was talking about that fight, I felt like Bud would have noticed that everybody that I named wasn't old, Damone. You just wanted to see Bud knock out a legend. That's all. Bud would have pushed Manny wig back. Easy. How old was Manny at that time? 30, what, 7, 30, like around that age? Come on, stop. Yeah, look at Manny's last fight against Mario Barrios. Terence Crawford and Mario Barrios. Yes. Times never kind of like, you know what I mean, Damone? There was no time where they was at the same weight class. But if you're talking about a fantasy fight, I was talking about 5 fights that legitimately could have been made that we didn't get. Because they were at the same weight class at a particular time, but it just never materialized. Or, you know, or a guy was thinking about moving up to their weight class. But if you want to talk about fantasy fights, oh, Bud and Erislandy Lara is one of them. Before Lara started to slip, that would have been a banger. Yeah, but Manny had been stopped, what, 3 times by the time he was that age? Had about, what, 5, 6 losses? Bud's undefeated. Difference in wear and tear. Bud's 38, still kicking ass. No, the business of boxing definitely robbed us against with Bud and Boots. Bud saw no reason to fight Boots. No reason to fight Boots because of namely money. Regardless of what fans might think, it's not an easy fight for Bud, but it doesn't generate the kind of money that a dude like Terence Crawford was looking for at that current time for that amount of risk. That's the business of boxing. It got to be worth it. And to Bud, the fight wasn't worth it. So, yes, that's the business of boxing. Yeah, but that's my 5, y'all. That's my 5. If you want to talk about historically, of course I got different fights than that, but those are my 5 fights that I felt like we didn't get because of the business of boxing. A lot of fans be thinking fighters are scared of other fighters. They're not, man. A lot of that shit just comes down to money and timing. Once you get to certain levels, and dudes like Boots will get there, there's gonna be a young dude coming along, and Boots is gonna be a pay-per-view fighter for like the next, 5, 7 years. And there's gonna be a young dude coming along that's gonna be calling his name, and he's gonna be like, who? Who the fuck is that? That's how it is. That's the name of the game. That's boxing. Floyd went from hunter to hunted. Spence went from hunter to hunted. Bud went from hunter to hunted. That's how it goes. Nah, Salim too small. It'd be somebody like Darrell Valsaint, somebody like that. Nah, big enough name for the money and the risk. That's what the guy is saying. Big enough name for the money and the risk. Not big enough name. He was a big name. That was his point. Scary was Doja. But those are my 5, man. Those are the 5 fights I feel like the business of boxing robbed us of. If you replace like Madrimov with Charlo, and if you replace Amir Khan with like Josh Taylor, so on and so forth, you're looking at that resume differently, yo. So for the dudes that criticize his resume, you're looking at that joint differently. Do-rag. I'm going somewhere. I mean, my wave's spinning. Yeah, that's everybody's 5. You can, I mean, some people wanted Pacquiao. I wanted Taylor. But yeah, those are the 5 that boxing robbed us of. Now, if he stayed at 68, I wanted to see him and Mark Charlo. That was a fight that I wanted to see. That's me personally. If he stayed at 68, him and Mark Charlo, I wanted to see that. I feel like that would have been a banger. Yo, I always wanted to do a pound for pound list, but because I know these dudes and I interact with these dudes, I'm good on that. I'm good on that. Dudes be feeling away about lists and all that, man. Fighters are sensitive. I want to see a dude at a press conference. You're like, damn, so I'm not on your pound for pound list? If you're watching this video on playback, man, give me your 5, yo. Give me your 5 that you always wanted to see. GHB, AJ Will, I don't know, man. I think that the beef with the WBC and Janabek, I think that was probably a deciding factor. Yeah, remember, bro, he got kids, man. Maybe he just want to be the soccer dad, you know what I'm saying? Maybe he don't want to cut weight no more. Maybe he want to just fucking be in the crib and bust nuts. He already has a great investment portfolio. And so because of that, like if I'm making 6 figures just off of just being a landlord, what the fuck I want for? Got your money in the bank, probably got his shit in a high yield fucking interest account. One, you probably got big money in an IUL. So well, they ain't giving you notifications, Tango? And maybe he just want to go on tour, man. Maybe he just want to go on tour and just enjoy life. Who want to get punched in the face every day? Oh, damn, there you go. My bad. Hey, yo, wait 1 second. I got to get this GPS with it. Yeah, Damone. Coming to the gym every day for 30 years. Now, mind you, this could be a negotiating tactic. Just want to warn everybody. This could be a negotiating tactic for him to get the number that he wants from Canelo. But I'm gonna act like it isn't. But you know, congratulations, great fucking career. Now enjoy life, man. Life is short. Go enjoy it. Put in your work. You fought the best, you beat the best. AJ Will, that wouldn't be smart though. I know people are like diehard, like Bud fans or whatnot, but it wouldn't be smart for him to take time off and then come back and fight a fighter smack dab in the middle of their prime. That's not smart. And that's not something I want to see. The only way I say come back is if it's an older fighter just like you. But leave them young niggas alone. You don't want to come off 2 years, come back and fight a young wolf. Leave them alone. My bad, I'm on a bumpy ass road. I'm trying to keep this bitch steady. I don't know if Earl comes back, bro. I don't know. Fighters are getting smarter, especially with their investments, spending. Fighters are getting smarter. So I'm not sure. Not sure. I think the compounding the accidents with the torn retina and with the Bud fight, I think that kind of did Spence in. AC, what up with you? said he lost by split decision? Damn. Did he really lose or did Nito get robbed? It's amazing that Nito is that age and still fighting on a fucking high level, bro. Like, dude is a fucking unicorn. I think Nito like 42? Kenneth, what's good? I know this shit gotta be shaking. My man, Damone for the $2 super chat. Appreciate you, boy. Bud had no split decisions and no close calls ever. Nah, not to me. I mean, the Madrimov scorecards, I was just like, yo, what fucking fight did y'all watch? That shit wasn't close. Yeah, Kenneth, Bud retired. Bud retired last night. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. It's over. God damn, it's real bumpy as shit. I'm trying, y'all. End of an era, man. End of an era. Just now coming in, give me the 5 fights that you always wanted to see Terence Crawford in, that you felt like we were robbed of. Give me your 5. My 5 is Danny Garcia, Keith Thurman, Jamel Charlo, Josh Taylor, Ennis. Give me your 5-piece nugget, y'all. Trying to hold this bitch steady. Yeah, Jeremy, but I'm talking about fights with Bud specifically. Fights with Bud. Those are my 5, though. felt like Bud had an absolutely outrageous back end of his career, best back end of somebody's career in the history of boxing. Everybody been saying that. Everybody been saying Earl gonna be back this, Earl gonna be back that. Bro, it's been damn near 3 years. At this point, yo, I think people should just stop talking about it. You got fighters talking about that's their dream fight. It's like, respectfully, Earl is done. Earl is done. And there ain't nothing wrong with being done. Bud versus Danny at 40, banger. Fucking banger. Cam, what up? Yeah, I got Earl being a Hall of Famer. 3-time champion, Olympian. Yeah. For really, really good opposition. Yo, I hope y'all doing good, man. I know we mostly dudes in here. How's your pockets? Is Christmas kicking your ass too? These damn kids, boy. Woo. Don't it make you appreciate your pop now a lot more? When you was just a kid, you was just out there. You know what I mean? Now you realizing all the shit that your pop had to deal with, yo. Now you got chicks, you got BMs. Now you realizing that your mom was probably stressing your dad the fuck out. I hope y'all doing good, though. Oh, man. I don't even celebrate it no more. My kids do, though, but I don't celebrate it. Yo, I'm curious to see what my Terence Crawford channels is going to do. That's the one part that I am. That's the one part that I am curious about. But yo, hey yo, I just got a call, y'all. I'm about to hop off, man. I appreciate y'all, but I got a call and kind of like blacked out the screen. So I'm gonna hit y'all later. We out.